That's not.
And a neat little body to go. The fish is always fresh since I was 8 years old, almost 30 years ago. It's exactly the same. How many years? 19. We ain't having it. I like the attitude. That's how I shuck. Are they fresh? Oh, definitely. It really does work. You really do. That's really good. It's hot. The combination of it all. But we're not talking about Flipper? No, we are not. The jackass in the tracksuit is trying to sell me a knife. If I'm lazy, I live with him once a week. He has to live with himself all the time. We both suffer. Slacking off or marrying rich? I did both. And then the final part is, over the last year, my father got an email, and it wasn't from like somebody in Nigeria with a bank scam. It was some guy who was like a 14th cousin of his, who said, hey, guess what? We're related, and I need some information from you to fill out this family tree. And it was like 49 pages long. My father thought I would be interested in it and sent it to me. And I kind of was, except that, like, we've never known anything about ourselves and our past. And all of a sudden we found out that in a certain way you can, if you believe this guy who found my dad on the internet, trace us back to 1820 in Poland. And then, you know, like I said, literally it's 49 pages, and it's all horizontal rather than vertical. So it's almost impossible to look at it as a you know, continuous thread. And so when I was looking at this, I started to feel that none of these people were really related to me, and that I'm not really from Poland. And I'm not really from anywhere except for St. Louis, and then I moved to New York, and now I'm from New York. And so looking at this family tree, I started thinking about, well, who are these people? And of course, I'll never know, so I started imagining who they might be. And so each of these people I'm about to read is, in my mind, somebody who was an ancestor to me. I begin this document, again, found on my hard drive, saying, that not immediately known to me is fiction, my family most of all. Wiki knowledge, common assumptions, and historical distance keep me from saying with certainty that anyone who came before ever actually existed. Certainly the stories about them are secondhand, the photos, emulsion on paper, home movies, merely shadows. They who are so far back might as well have never been. They'll say the same of me one day if I'm lucky. Likely they'll just feel the same way without ever knowing it is me they have ignored. So, again, this is my family. A Romanian poet, really more of a layabout, who lives off of women, has multiple children from at least 4 whores, whose verse celebrates only the autumn equinox. An Uncle Scrooge-like banker who lives in a cavernous house filled with opulent goblets and bags of gold. He prizes his rare Talmud collection above all, but has problems building shelves tall enough to house his oversized scrolls. He dies of malnutrition. A butcher, constantly short on meat, who regularly tries to convince irritated customers that the mysterious new animals he now sells are as good, if not better, than the plain, and in his opinion, bland ones they are accustomed to eating.
Soylent Green.
Exactly. A circus performer who has a bear act involving a giant black bear that he keeps on a chain. They have an adversarial relationship offstage, but are perfect partners in front of a crowd. A gambling some of you guys have arthritis. How do you pronounce that word? That's the word. A gambling rabbi who lives in a rickety shack, considered a great scholar. He nods yes and mostly no more than he talks. He hasn't spoken to a woman in nearly 24 years, the last time having been an accident. By abstaining from sex, he believes that he is retaining his vital essence and estimates with certain faith that he will live till the age of 600, at least. A slow, inarticulate traveling salesman who dies of a severely ingrown toenail deep in Nowheresville, Romania. A jeweler with a covetous son and conniving daughter-in-law. He has suffered and yet survived multiple poisonings without ever once considering the culprit, always believing his troubles to be a challenge from God. While a frail old man, he remains surprisingly healthy and able to withstand and misread all their attacks. An architect in Poland who specializes in castle additions. He's very pretentious. An inventor trying to figure out ways to melt ice and make the winter shorter. There is no electricity, and he hasn't ever heard of it anyway, but he wants to find a way to create more heat. He thinks often about lenses, but wherever he is, there are very few lenses available. He also sketches something that might be loosely thought of as the prototype of the electric blanket, albeit a football field-sized version.
Spinoza!
A bricklayer who accidentally kills another man while drunk on the job, lives haunted by guilt, cannot stop drinking. A restless, very mangy, singing sheep herder who refuses to sleep indoors. The town people built him his own well so he'd stay out of city center. On quiet nights, the sound of his voice can be heard crooning, improvised, rhyming, epic-length songs about Moses' 40-year trek through the desert. A painter who paints overcast days and barren fields. He has a religious conversion after a near-death experience, recovers his health fully, but from that day onwards only paints ox. A gay Gaul, banished by his family, who heads north for erotic adventures, believing that in the tundra, men bundle together for warmth after they get sweaty working in the field. He rarely, if ever, finds other humans in the snow, and he is never seen again. The fourth uniformed police officer in France, sworn to duty on March 13th, 1829, later that night at Les Halles, he becomes the first officer to accept a bribe. His wife is a grizzled barmaid who carries a baseball bat, but baseball hasn't been invented yet. A haberdasher with 2 wives, 2 separate families, no one is ever the wiser. Inevitably, a few generations down the line, various cousins intermarry. It's a small village. Each of the young lovers feels something warm, inviting, and strangely familiar in the other. They are really hot for each other. A foppish curator at the Hermitage, who is interested in very peculiar types of art, but most especially the Ukrainian Easter egg collection. All the objects he chooses for display have very erotic or downright unsavory elements. He is sentenced to death for displaying a spherical stone rod with the description, rural masturbation tool, mid-1400s. A Lower East Side pickle vendor's daughter. She is plain and doesn't talk much. Has a very quiet interior life as well. She gets pneumonia or bronchitis and dies at 23, unmarried. A woman who catches disease from rat feces. Oh, wait till the next one. Wait. You haven't heard it yet. A woman who catches disease from rat feces, forced to live in bed in the shtetl where her family endures hardships, extreme poverty, and famine. She hallucinates from untended illness and hunger. In her fantasies, she and the family are in the New World, repairing shoes and dining on pickled herrings. I think the last family member of mine is probably the most famous. It is 1702, and Poland is being rampaged by Ganilla.